More trade talk with the Charlotte Hornets. What would we be willing to give up for a Myles Turner or just a center anywhere in the NBA? We also asked the question if LaMelo Ball is a superstar, all today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market, so check them out at prizepicks.com. We appreciate you joining us. Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, and that includes YouTube, where if you joined us yesterday, if you clicked on the first, second, or third, we're splitting these shows up into segments and then putting them out as a video each itself, right? So 3 videos basically per day. You could have seen us 3 times wear the B suit because we wanted to maximize all of the content that made us look as much as ridiculous as we possibly could. And so you can check it out at on Locked On Hornets at YouTube, so you can go check us out.
I've got a new costume idea, by the way. I've got a new costume idea. So Wes Wednesday, we typically do Wes Wednesdays. Wes couldn't be here today, but hopefully we can get him maybe tomorrow or next week because he has a new catchphrase called "Straight Fire." He's been saying that a lot on the show, and I love it. I love the new catchphrase. So I want to do something around that. I'm thinking maybe like a fire helmet, just some fire sound effects. I'm going to work on it.
Yeah, so you're going to try to do this virtual reality and put it on his head via the things you can do, or do you want him to actually wear a fire helmet?
Oh, no, I would say I would wear the fire helmet.
You want to do it.
I just like wearing costumes. I have a theater background. This sort of plays into some of my strengths. I think I could pull off the fire helmet.
Can I just tell you a couple of things I noticed watching those episodes back yesterday? You were excellent in the intro. Where I don't know what moves you're doing. You're doing the Al Jefferson one-handed basketball palming in the post, trying to figure out what you're going to do. And then also, you enjoyed the stangin', me using your catchphrase when I said I'm stangin', showing off my little stinger on the bee costume. I mean, that was like, yes, everything came full circle. Theater, costume, your catchphrase.
Yeah, I love you using the I love when anyone uses the catchphrase. If they tweet at me on Twitter when anything, stangin', it's great. It's the one catchphrase that like some people around the Hornets haven't stolen from me yet. So,
Eric, it's off limits. You can't use it.
Yeah. No, please, no one take stanging phrase. It's all you've left me. You took Sky Miles. You've taken everything else. You took Miracle After Midnight. Just leave me stangin'.
We're going to leave you staying in. I won't steal it from you anymore until we... Now, the other question I have real quickly that I found myself in this predicament after the episode, what did you do with the costume? Where did you put it?
Well, the costume itself is hanging in my closet, but you can see the actual bee helmet.
Oh, I do see it, yes.
Sitting on top of my basketball goal in my background. So, little remnant.
I thought about doing something like that once I get a nicer background. I could put it over there, something like that, just to use it a part of the show. Either way, I had no clue what to do with it, and so now it's kind of in my closet too, and it looks weird that I have a bee suit in my closet. Let's talk about the Charlotte Hornets possibly making a trade. Trade talk has been all around us this season because of the need for a center. We know Indiana, the one team that I think has been most talked about, even with the Charlotte Hornets, because they have the one player that's been most talked about, Myles Turner. A guy that's been linked to the Hornets for quite some time. Shams Charania just put out a trade rumors article on The Athletic that continued those inquiries from Charlotte trying to go after a Myles Turner, and that included the Dallas Mavericks, the New York Knicks, and even the LA Lakers, but the Hornets were among those 4 teams. On a recent ESPN piece, Bobby Marks put out there that the Charlotte Hornets, maybe a trade between the Pacers and the Hornets could be James Bouknight and Mason Plumlee in exchange for Myles Turner. Doug, who says no to that deal?
Well, if it doesn't include any kind of additional draft compensation, I think maybe Indiana says no to that deal. I don't know that Mason Plumlee and James Bouknight would be enough to seal the deal. A lot of the talk around this deal for Myles Turner has involved P.J. Washington, because P.J. Washington is not only a known commodity, unlike James Bouknight, he's a hot commodity. He's playing really well right now. And so if Indiana has aspirations of getting a player back that they could, build around, it would be, the less risky proposition would be PJ Washington than taking James Bouknight back.
Yeah, and I wonder what the less risky proposition is for the Charlotte Hornets. Like, it sounds easy enough to say that PJ Washington would be the less risky one, but this is a first-round pick in Bouknight that has really high upside as far as a scorer goes. I think this is the deal that would be the most divisive between Pacers and Hornets fans. I think the Pacers are going to want more. I think fans for Indiana are going to want more. And I think the Hornets are going to think that's too much, giving up James Bouknight. That's the guy, to me, that I think Hornets fans want to hold on to as much as anything, more so than PJ, more so than Kai. I even think Hornets fans would be willing to give up not a lightly protected first, but let's go, I don't know, top 10. I think they'd be more willing to give up that pick than a James Bouknight. Just from reaction, from the way that people seem to really be invested in Bouknight's future. And look, it makes some sense to some degree if you think that Terry Rozier is going to move on in the next year or two and you want James Bouknight to be that guy that carries that torch from him and he can play alongside a LaMelo Ball. Like, there are reasons to keep James Bouknight for sure. One simple one just being as a first-round pick. But I think that's the most divisive deal that you could come up with between these two teams, where each fan base is like, no, I don't want to do it.
Well, because it's a huge risk, because James Bouknight is Schrodinger's rookie. We don't know what James Bouknight is or what he could be because we just haven't seen a lot of him this year, because the Hornets have a glut of veteran wings who are all playing well enough to justify them continuing to get minutes over James Bouknight. So we don't know what he is or what he could be. But we also don't know. We have a history. We have a track record of Mitch Kupchak drafting well. And so that sort of lends to the argument that James Bouknight could be something great for the Hornets, because we have this history of Mitch Kupchak with the Charlotte Hornets and with other teams, with the Lakers too, drafting well. We don't necessarily have that record with the Charlotte Hornets of him trading well. The only deal that he's ever done has been to bring Brad Wanamaker over to the Hornets from the Warriors, which was just a deal of necessity. So we don't have that history, and so I think there's a lot of risk involved when you're talking about making James Bouknight, because the nightmare scenario is that Myles Turner turns the Hornets into a first-round exit playoff team only, and James Bouknight goes and becomes a star guard for Indiana.
Yeah, and I think that's, of course, it's always going to be risky when you're trading a younger player. That's the idea. That's the enticing part to the team that receives it. It's the worrisome part when you talk about the team that allows them to exit the organization. But if you're getting Myles Turner, who's only 25 years old, and he fills an immediate need, and it turns a weakness into an outright strength. He's an elite rim protector. We can put Rudy Gobert number 1, and then we can probably put Myles Turner number 2 or number 3, and whoever else you want to put in that conversation. But he's not exiting the top 3. And the guy, even if his three-point shooting percentage has dipped pretty significantly here, especially in the last 5 games, Myles still a career 35% three-point shooter. And so he still allows you to stretch the floor and protect the rim defensively. That's why I think he's so enticing, especially at only the age of 25. I do this deal, Doug. If we just want to simply answer this, I do it. If I'm Mitch Kupchak, if they say, hey, we'll go ahead and pull the trigger. We just want to be rid of the whole Myles Turner trade rumor thing that we've been undergoing the last 3 years. We'll take James Bouknight, give us Mason Plumlee to match the salary, and give us depth at center, even though they've got a million centers on that team. And we'll send you Myles. If I'm Charlotte, I'm doing it. What say you on that proposal?
If you don't have to give up any kind of future draft pick, because the Hornets already have leveraged some of their their more recent draft assets. So if you don't have to leverage any of that, then I say, yeah, I think you do this deal. The Myles Turner thing makes sense, makes too much sense. Mm-hmm. I think Myles Turner particularly would be great alongside LaMelo Ball. And then you sort of scratch that itch, you satisfy that need to get better as LaMelo Ball continues to get better, and you show him, hey, yes, we are trying to get you into the playoffs and allow this team to contend. You just continue to make the case to him, to LaMelo Ball, hey, we're trying to build a winner here in Charlotte. keeping James Bouknight, that's a long-term play. I'm not sure that would go very far in making that case to LaMelo Ball. So I think, yes, you do the deal. Mitch, finally do something. I wouldn't do it for any other center, honestly. I think Myles Turner, this is a particular case where it makes too much sense. And
Christian Wood?
Jesse, no, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think for Christian Wood.
And there have been some clips where Christian Wood's attitude is apparently is kind of getting blasted right now. There was that clip of him refusing to go guard Andre Drummond down low, and then they got burned because of it in the other game against Philadelphia. We've heard that that's kind of been the MO on him, why he bounced around from team to team. It's like, I mean, if that's going to be the case, as crazy gifted as Christian Wood is, if those things start to float around, I don't know him. Like I have no clue who he is. But if those things are floating around and if they're true, then yeah, I think Myles Turner probably is the perfect example, even more so than a Wood or maybe even other centers.
Yeah, just real quickly, I mean, the Hornets have a great team chemistry right now. So if you're going to break that up in any respect by moving players, then you better bring back a player that can come in and integrate pretty easily and not cause much trouble. And I think that's Myles Turner. I am less sure that that's Christian Wood.
Yeah, 100%. I want to continue to make maybe one more point on that. Also want to talk about Kendrick Perkins, some ESPN conversation surrounding the Charlotte Hornets, and specifically LaMelo Ball. Let's talk about Prize Picks first, though, because they have the best NBA DFS prop game on the market, and they offer more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator, and they offer all the superstar players as well as the bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. Go to prizepicks.com today. Use promo code NBA or go to your app store and download the app. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. If you're not playing Prize Picks, you honestly don't know what you're missing. So much fun. You don't have to wait the entire season. It's not something that you have to make sure you're constantly tinkering with your lineup because something might happen. No, it's daily fantasy. You have total control over it, and it's made easy for you at prizepicks.com. Use promo code NBA once you go to the website. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about Kendrick Perkins' comments on LaMelo Ball and one other trade scenario I want to throw at Doug. That's coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast.